At 84, I spent 6 months as a regular visitor at a hospice where a close friend was dying. In those 6 months, I spoke with dozens of people in their final weeks. I asked questions when people wanted to talk. I listened. I kept no notes. What I came away with was an understanding of what people wished they had done differently. It was almost always the same things. I am 92 years old. I have been close to people at the end of their lives for decades. Friends, family, people I sat with in those hospice months. The clarity that comes in final weeks is remarkable. The noise drops away. What actually mattered becomes very plain. I am telling you what they told me, what they wished they had done, because you are not in a hospice. You are here, and the window to act on almost all of it is still open. The single thing that appeared most consistently in those conversations was language. Not arguments people wished they had won. Not defenses they wished they had made. Words of love, of forgiveness, of acknowledgement. Things people wished they had said to a parent, a child, a spouse, an estranged sibling. Words that had been ready for years. Words composed in the mind, rehearsed, intended, just never delivered. People had been keeping them for the right moment, a private moment, a calm day, a visit that kept not happening, a conversation that kept getting postponed until the postponement became permanent. The right moment had been any moment. Every moment for the last 10 years had been the right moment. All of them had passed. This was not rare. It was the most common thing I encountered in those 6 months. Intelligent, loving people who had simply not said the thing, out of timing, out of fear of being misunderstood, out of the assumption that there would be more time. There was no more time. If there is something you have been keeping for the right moment, I want you to understand. You are describing something you are at risk of never saying. The right moment is now. Not next week. Now. Almost every person who wanted to talk about regret mentioned time. Specifically, the time they had given to things that, from the final weeks of a life, had the weight of nothing. Work in most cases. The management of a reputation. Being right in arguments that no longer existed. Maintaining a status that no one around them was tracking anymore. They had given decades to these things. Decades of evenings, weekends, holidays redirected. Decades of presence withdrawn from the people they loved and redirected toward things that were going to stop mattering completely and very soon. And from that bed, in those final weeks, it had the weight of nothing. They did not wish they had worked harder. They did not wish they had been more aggressive in pursuing recognition. They wished they had been home more. They wished they had worried less. They wished they had taken more walks and fewer calls. What felt enormous for 40 years proved at the end to be almost entirely forgettable. The urgency you feel right now about your career, your status, your being taken seriously, that urgency is real. I understand it. I felt it for decades. But I am telling you, from the far side of a long life, it will not feel this urgent at the end. Something else will. In those 6 months, several people mentioned a specific relationship, always one that they had been unable to repair before the end. A child they had not spoken to in years, a sibling who had stopped answering calls, a parent they had never properly known while there was still time, a friend whose exit from their life they had never adequately addressed. In each case, they had told themselves that there would be time to address it later, that things would normalize eventually, that one day they would find the right approach, the right moment, the right words. One day had not arrived while they could still act on it. They were not estranged by hatred, most of them. They were estranged by accumulated silence, by pride that had gone on long enough to become a wall, by the assumption that the option would still be available when they finally decided to take it. The option had closed. Sitting with that in those final weeks, with the relationship permanently beyond reach, this was a particular quality of pain I would not wish on anyone. The relationship you are currently managing through distance has an expiry date. You don't know what it is. Act as though it is sooner than you think, because it probably is. In 6 months of those conversations, I never once heard someone wish they had worked more. Not one person. I never heard anyone wish they had been more aggressive in pursuing recognition. Never heard anyone wish they had spent more time managing their professional reputation, accumulating more, or being right in more arguments. Never heard a single person wish they had given less time to their family. What I heard instead was gratitude for ordinary things. A marriage that had held, a child who came to visit, a friendship maintained across decades, a morning spent outside with nowhere to be. The ordinary things, chosen deliberately, were what held at the end. The extraordinary things, the achievements, the recognitions, the status, were largely absent from the conversation. This is the clearest corrective I know to how most people in their 40s and 50s are organizing their lives. They are optimizing for things that will prove to have meant very little, and giving minimum attention to the things that will, from the final weeks of a life, seem to have been everything. What you think will matter at the end is almost certainly not what will matter. I have sat with enough people at the end to tell you that plainly. At 92, I want you to understand one thing clearly. The window to live without major regret is not permanently open. It is open right now for you, in ways it was not open for every person I sat with in those hospice months. There are words still sayable that will become unsayable. There are relationships still repairable that will become permanently beyond reach. There are choices still available about how to spend your time, what to prioritize, who deserves your full presence. That will close. You are not in a hospice. You are here. The people I sat with would have given almost anything to be where you are right now, with the option still available, with time still in front of them, with the ability to make a different choice before it was too late to make it. Everyone wants to die without regret. That desire is universal. What is not universal is the willingness to do what that requires, today at the cost of comfort and convenience and pride, before the window closes. That gap between wanting and doing is exactly where regret is made. I have sat with people who ran out of time. They were not unusual people. They were not careless or unloving or unaware. They were people who had simply kept certain things in the future, a conversation, a repair, a presence, a word, and arrived at the end of their lives with those things still there, still waiting, permanently uncollectible. I am not sitting with you. You are sitting here, with time still in front of you and the options still open. Say the thing. Repair the relationship. Put down whatever you have been giving your evenings to that does not deserve them. Give the time to what will actually hold at the end. I have sat with people who ran out of time. You have not. Act like it.